Let's be real for a second. Is there any movie that screams millennial nostalgia quite like Shrek 2? It is the cinematic equivalent of a warm hug. It gave us the fairy godmother belting out, holding out for a hero, Puss in Boots making those irresistible sad eyes, and a sequel that actually managed to be better than the original. A rare breed, indeed. We have all watched it a dozen times, maybe more. You can probably quote the dinner scene verbatim. You know exactly when Donkey is going to pop up and annoy Shrek. But what if I told you that for years, you might have been watching a completely different version of the movie than your neighbors? And what if I told you that buried deep within the UK release of this animated masterpiece is a cameo so bizarre, so jarring, and, according to the internet, so dreadful that it has become the stuff of accidental legend? If you are a fan of British TV, you know Jonathan Ross. The man is a broadcasting titan, a chat show legend, and a comic book aficionado. But even the biggest Wasi fans might have totally missed the moment he stepped into the swamp. So, grab a waffle, Donkey would approve, sit back, and let's dive into the strange, hilarious, and slightly cringe-worthy rabbit hole of Jonathan Ross's secret blockbuster role. The movie we all think we know. First, we have to set the scene. The year was 2004. Shrek 2 was absolutely dominating the box office. It was smart, sassy, and packed with pop culture references that flew right over kids' heads but made their parents cackle. Part of the genius of the Shrek franchise was its voice cast. Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and Antonio Banderas were the core, but the supporting cast was just as starry. You had Julie Andrews as the Queen, John Cleese as the King, and Jennifer Saunders stealing every scene as the fairy godmother. But then there was the ugly stepsister. You remember Doris, right? The gruff, bartending stepsister who helps Shrek and the gang. In the version most of the world saw, and the version currently on most streaming platforms, Doris was voiced by the legendary American talk show host, Larry King. It was a brilliant casting choice. Hearing Larry King's distinctively gravelly, matter-of-fact broadcasting voice coming out of a fairy tale character was comedy gold. It was unexpected, it was dry, it was perfect. But in the UK, DreamWorks decided to get a little creative. The swap, enter Wasi. In a move to localize the film for British audiences, the studio decided that Larry King wasn't quite a household name enough for UK viewers, though, arguably, he was famous enough. They wanted a British equivalent, someone loud, recognizable, and deeply embedded in the UK entertainment scene. Enter Jonathan Ross. That's right. In the UK theatrical release and the original UK DVD, Doris the Ugly Stepsister wasn't Larry King, it was Jonathan Ross. Now, on paper, you can see the logic. Ross is flamboyant, funny, and has a very distinctive voice. He's a personality. But the execution? Well, that is where things get a little divisive. If you grew up watching the UK DVD, this is just how the movie is to you. But for everyone else, hearing Jonathan Ross's voice suddenly erupt from the screen is a true glitch in the Matrix moment. Why it's being called dreadful recently, clips of this specific UK dub have been resurfacing on TikTok and YouTube, and the internet is having a field day. The descriptor dreadful has been thrown around quite a bit, and honestly, it's not hard to see why the reaction is so strong. The issue isn't necessarily that Ross is bad at acting. It's that the performance is just so, Jonathan Ross. When Larry King voiced Doris, he played it straight. He used his normal speaking voice, which made the visual gag of the character funny because it was so understated. He sounded like a weary bartender who had seen it all. Ross, on the other hand, went for it. He put on a voice. It's a little camp, a little over the top, and very distinctive. Instead of the dry wit of King, Ross's Doris feels more like a sketch show character dropped into the middle of a polished Hollywood blockbuster. It stands out, and not always in the way you want a cameo to stand out. One recent comment on a viral clip of the scene simply read, "I'm British and even I think Larry King is better." Another viewer noted, "I have never been so confused in my life. Why does Doris sound like she's about to introduce a musical guest?" The harsh reality is that some voice performances age like fine wine, and some age like, well, milk left out in a swamp. Ross's cameo falls into the category of weirdly distracting. It pulls you out of the movie because you stop seeing the character and start thinking, wait, is that Jonathan Ross? The Mandela effect of animation. What makes this story so fascinating is how many people had no idea this existed. If you watched Shrek 2 on Netflix recently, you almost certainly heard Larry King. Streaming services often use the master US print of films to save on storage and licensing complications. So, even if you are British and saw the film in cinemas in 2004, your memory has likely been overwritten by the Larry King version over years of rewatches on streaming platforms. It creates this bizarre Mandela effect where half the population swears Doris sounds like a British chat show host, and the other half thinks they are hallucinating. And it wasn't just Jonathan Ross. The localization team went fully method. Remember the red carpet scene at the end of the movie? In the US version, the red carpet reporter is voiced by the late, great Joan Rivers. Iconic, irreplaceable. Except, they replaced her. In the UK version, the red carpet reporter is voiced by Kate Thornton. Yes, the former X Factor presenter. It is such a specifically 2004 British reference that it almost hurts. It dates the movie in a way the US version doesn't. Joan Rivers is timeless. Kate Thornton anchoring the red carpet is a very specific slice of British pop culture history. Why do studios do this? This whole dreadful Cameo situation shines a light on a really weird Hollywood habit, the regional celebrity dub. Studios used to be obsessed with cramming local celebrities into animated movies to help market them in different territories. The thought process was, hey, British people love Jonathan Ross. If we put him in the movie, they'll buy more tickets. But they often forgot that the original voice actor was usually cast for a reason, because their voice fit the character perfectly. When you shoehorn a local celebrity in just for the sake of marketing, you often end up with a square peg in a round hole. It happens all the time. In the Japanese release of The Avengers, the dubbing was criticized because they used popular idols instead of professional voice actors. In various dubs of Pixar movies, jokes are changed and voices are swapped, often leaving the local audience with a slightly inferior product just for the sake of a "hey, I know that guy" moment. A cameo worth revisiting? So, is Jonathan Ross's performance actually dreadful? Look, dreadful might be a bit harsh. It's definitely unique. It's a fascinating time capsule of 2004 British culture. It reminds us of a time when Jonathan Ross was arguably the biggest face on British TV. But is it better than Larry King? Absolutely not. King's dry, deadpan delivery was the perfect contrast to the absurdity of the character. Ross's version feels like a pantomime performance, which, while fun in its own way, changes the vibe of the scene entirely. However, there is a certain charm to it. It's a rough edge in a smooth movie. It's a reminder that movies used to be tinkered with and tailored in ways that global streaming has kind of erased. If you want to experience the dreadful magic for yourself, you'll have to dig out an old UK DVD or scour YouTube for the comparison videos. It's a jarring experience, like hearing a cover song that's almost right but misses the soul of the original. But hey, at least we'll always have the memories. And now, the next time you watch Shrek 2 and Doris appears on screen, you can turn to your friends and say, "Did you know that in England, that's Jonathan Ross?" They might not believe you. They might tell you you're crazy. But you'll know the truth. You'll know that somewhere, in an alternate version of Far, Far Away, Wasi is serving drinks and looking for love. And isn't that a beautiful, if slightly terrifying thought?